Desolate shadows, a nightmare on empty roads. It was a moonless night, and I found myself driving on a desolate stretch of highway, surrounded by dense woods on both sides. The gas gauge had been flirting with empty for miles, but I thought I could make it to the next town. As I pressed on, the engine sputtered and gasped its last breath. Stranded in the pitch-black darkness, I realized the gravity of my situation. No streetlights, no passing cars, just an oppressive silence broken only by the rustling of leaves in the wind. I grabbed my phone, praying for a signal, but the screen stubbornly displayed no service. Panic set in, but I had no choice but to venture into the unknown in search of help. Armed with a flashlight, I stumbled upon an old, seemingly abandoned gas station a short walk away. As I approached, the wind carried whispers that seemed to echo through the skeletal remains of the gas station. The air turned colder, and an overwhelming feeling of dread enveloped me. I hesitated but had no other option. Inside, the flickering light revealed dusty shelves and ancient gas pumps frozen in time. The cash register sat open, a snapshot of a time long past. I called out, but my voice seemed to get swallowed by the eerie stillness. Just as I was about to turn back, the distant sound of footsteps echoed through the emptiness. I spun around, expecting to see another lost traveler, but there was no one in sight. The footsteps persisted, growing louder and more erratic. My flashlight flickered, casting long, distorted shadows on the cracked walls. That's when I saw them, flickering apparitions, translucent figures that seemed to materialize and vanish in the blink of an eye. My heart raced as I realized I was not alone. Terrified, I stumbled out of the gas station, determined to make it back to my car. The woods seemed to close in around me, and the wind carried ghostly whispers that sent shivers down my spine. The footsteps pursued me until I reached my car, and with a trembling hand, I locked the doors. As the engine roared to life, I glanced back at the abandoned gas station. Flickering apparitions lingered, watching me from the darkness. I sped away, haunted by the chilling encounter on that desolate stretch of highway. To this day, the memory of that night haunts my dreams, a consistent reminder that some places and some encounters should remain untouched in the realm of the unknown. Dead empty, my night on the edge of nowhere. It was a late-night run, one of those get-it-done hauls across the desolate Nevada plains. My rusty rig, a beat-up pickup named Rusty, rumbled like a restless beast, her headlights carving tunnels through the inky blackness. Radio sputtered static, only amplifying the eerie silence outside. Something about that night felt off. The air hung heavy, like a premonition waiting to exhale. But hey, deadlines don't take days off, and Rusty and we were a well-oiled machine, or so I thought. Miles ticked by, each one etching a deeper groove of unease into my gut. Then, that dreaded needle on the gas gauge began its death march towards E. Empty. Not a blip left. Just me, Rusty, and a whole lot of asphalt stretching into the void. Panic gnawed at my throat, cold and relentless. Call service? Non-existent. Hitchhiking in the middle of nowhere? Yeah, about as appealing as a rattlesnake smooch. My mind raced, searching for escape routes that weren't mirages in the moonlight. That's when I saw it, a flicker of hope on the horizon. A gas station, its neon sign a beacon in the abyss. Relief washed over me, sweet and syrupy, chased by a healthy dose of caution. Desert towns have secrets, shadows whispered on the wind. Approaching, the station seemed abandoned. Pumps stood sentinel in the darkness. No friendly attendant in sight, just a dusty payphone clinging to the wall, its receiver dangling like a spectral invitation. Curiosity, that fickle beast, urged me closer. I reached for the phone, its metal cold against my trembling fingers. As I lifted the receiver, static crackled, morphing into a whispered plea. Don't. Stay. Come. Morning. The line went dead. My skin prickled. The hairs on my arms stood on end, whispering warnings I couldn't ignore. But where else could I go? Rusty was a goner, stranded on the altar of empty fuel tanks. With a shaky breath, I stepped inside the station's skeletal frame. Moonlight flickered through grimy windows, illuminating shelves packed with dusty snacks and expired sodas. The air hung thick with a smell of stale oil and something else, something metallic and faintly rotten. A low growl echoed from the back, sending shivers down my spine. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drum solo of fear. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my legs were rooted to the spot. Fear turned to leaden weights. Then I saw it. A hulking shape emerged from the shadows, its silhouette monstrous in the dim light. Claws scraped against the floor, metal grinding on concrete. My breath caught in my throat, terror choking any sound I might have made. It was Rusty, but not my Rusty. This rusted beast was twisted, mangled, and its headlights glowing malevolent red. Its engine hissed, a grotesque parody of a purr, and I knew with a chilling certainty that Rusty wasn't the only one stranded here. The creature lurched closer, its metallic claws glinting in the moonlight. I stumbled back, tripping over cans of expired beans, the stench of decay assaulting my senses. My voice, when it finally emerged, was a strangled whimper, but that whisper somehow seemed to break the spell. The monster paused, its red eyes searching my face. Then, with a shuddering groan, it lumbered back into the darkness, leaving me alone in the cold embrace of that desolate gas station. Morning found me huddled by the payphone, shivering and numb. A passing trucker, bless his dusty soul, saw my predicament and took me in. Rusty I never saw again. Some say she's still out there, roaming the Nevada nights, a cautionary tale on four wheels. Midnight Echoes, a haunting roadside nightmare. It was a moonless night, and I was navigating a seemingly endless stretch of desolate highway. The gas gauge had been playing a dangerous game with empty for longer than I'd like to admit, but stubborn optimism had me convinced I could reach the next town. As the engine sputtered and gasped, I found myself stranded in the heart of nowhere. No streetlights, no signs of civilization, just an inky blackness that pressed against the car windows. The wind outside howled like a distant cry, as if warning me of the impending doom. My phone was my lifeline, or so I thought, but as I desperately swiped for a signal, it mocked me with a brutal no service. Panic set in, but there was no time to wallow. Armed with a flashlight, I took a hesitant step into the unknown, my footsteps echoing in the oppressive silence. A short walk brought me to an abandoned gas station, a relic from a time long forgotten. The sign creaked in the wind, the only audible sound in this eerie wasteland. Inside, the air was thick with an unsettling stillness, broken only by the occasional rattling of loose shutters. The place seemed frozen in time, with dust-covered shelves and ancient gas pumps standing as relics of a bygone era. My calls for help echoed through the emptiness, and just as I contemplated turning back, I heard it. Faint footsteps, rhythmic and unsettling, like an ominous drumbeat. The flashlight flickered, casting long shadows on the worn linoleum floor. The footsteps grew louder, and the air seemed to thicken with an otherworldly presence. That's when I saw them, ethereal figures, wisps of smoke that coalesced into forms as they moved. Terrified, I stumbled back into the cold night. The woods around the gas station seemed to whisper secrets I couldn't comprehend. The footsteps pursued me, growing more frenetic as I sprinted back to my car. The engine roared to life just in time, and I peeled away from that forsaken place. Glancing back, I saw the ghostly figures lingering at the edge of darkness. The memory of those encounters still clings to me, a vivid reminder that some journeys into the unknown should never be taken.